Welcome to Capital Catch-Up. I'm Victor.
And I'm Lenny. Today we have a unique episode because the congressional record for this period shows no activity at all.
That's right, Lenny. The official sources indicate there were no new bills introduced, no nominations confirmed, no committee meetings held, and no daily entries recorded for this time frame.
While it might seem like there's nothing to discuss, the absence of activity can actually tell us a lot about how Congress operates. It often reflects the legislative calendar, recess periods, or strategic pauses that lawmakers use for various reasons.
Exactly. The congressional calendar is divided into several sessions throughout the year. Typically, there are periods when the House and Senate are in session, actively debating and voting. And there are also scheduled recesses, often called district work periods, when members return to their home states to meet constituents.
Historically, those recesses have been a staple of the legislative process. Back in the early days of the Republic, the Continental Congress would meet only a few weeks each year, allowing delegates to tend to local affairs. Modern Congress follows a similar rhythm, balancing national responsibilities with local representation.
When Congress is in recess, you won't see new legislation being filed or committee hearings taking place, which explains why the official record can be blank for a stretch of days. It's not that the institution is idle. Rather, members are engaging with voters, fundraising, and gathering input that will shape future proposals.
That input can be crucial. For example, during a district work period, a representative might hear from farmers about water rights or from small business owners about regulatory burdens. Those conversations often seed the ideas that later become House resolutions or Senate bills.
And even though we don't have specific bills to dissect today, it's worth reminding our listeners how a typical bill moves through Congress. A member drafts the proposal, it receives a number, and then it's referred to a relevant committee. The committee holds hearings, may amend the text, and then votes whether to report it back to the full chamber.
If the committee reports the measure, it goes to the floor for debate. Members can offer further amendments, and then a vote is taken. If it passes one chamber, it moves to the other, where the process repeats. Once both chambers approve identical language, the bill is sent to the president for signature or veto.
Understanding that process helps explain why there can be weeks with no visible activity. The work behind the scenes, research, drafting, negotiations, often happens long before a bill appears on the floor.
Another piece of the puzzle is nominations. The Senate has the constitutional role of providing advice and consent on presidential appointments. Even when no confirmations are recorded, the Senate may be reviewing dossiers, holding background checks, or scheduling future hearings.
And committee meetings, while not logged for this period, are the engine room of legislation. Committees like Ways and Means, Energy and Commerce, or Armed Services conduct the detailed work that shapes policy. Their schedules can be front-loaded early in a session and then thin out as the calendar progresses toward major votes.
So what does this lull mean for everyday Americans? In the short term, there may be no immediate changes to taxes, healthcare, or infrastructure, but the conversations happening in district offices and the preparatory work in committees can set the stage for future legislation that directly affects daily life.
That's a good point. For instance, if a representative spends a week meeting with constituents about broadband access, that feedback could later inform a House resolution aimed at expanding rural internet service. Even though we don't see that bill today, the groundwork is being laid.
And historically, some of the most impactful laws have emerged after periods of quiet. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, for example, was preceded by months of behind-the-scenes negotiations and community outreach before it finally hit the floor.
So while the record shows no activity, the legislative machine is still turning, just not in a way that registers on the daily log.
For our listeners, it's a reminder to stay engaged, even when the headlines are quiet. Check your representative's website, attend town halls, and keep an eye on upcoming committee calendars. Those are the places where the next big policy ideas often germinate.
Looking ahead, we should watch for the start of the next session, when the House and Senate reconvene and begin filing new measures. Pay particular attention to any House resolutions or Senate bills that address pressing issues like inflation, climate resilience, or immigration reform.
Also keep an eye on any upcoming Senate confirmations, especially for cabinet positions or federal judges, because those appointments can have long-term effects on how laws are interpreted and enforced.
In summary, today's lack of recorded activity doesn't mean Congress is dormant. It reflects the rhythm of the legislative calendar, the behind-the-scenes work that fuels future policy, and the ongoing dialogue between lawmakers and the public.
Listeners should watch for the next wave of bills and nominations, stay informed about committee agendas, and continue to voice their concerns to their elected officials.
Thanks for joining us on this quiet but insightful episode of Capitol Catch-Up.
We'll be back soon with fresh analysis as soon as the next round of congressional activity begins.
Until then, stay informed and keep the conversation going.
And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an update from Capitol Hill.